I offered Clayton Farlow the oil that you've been stockpiling. Darling, why do not you sit on your everyday vicinity right here? Yeah, that is right, Jenna. In 1,983 million people watched to discover who shot J.R. Ewing. But that wasn't the craziest part of Dallas. The show had to film 8 different endings because the real shooter turned into kept so mystery even the forger failed to realize. Behind the scenes, the whole thing was falling aside. Larry Hagman changed into refusing to return back, except he got paid greater. A big actors' strike closed down manufacturing, and the writers have been desperately trying to restoration episodes they had already filmed. Today, we are exposing what absolutely passed off at some stage in TV's most notorious rewrite. When Dallas premiered on April 2, 1978, no person expected it to turn out to be certainly one of the biggest TV dramas of all time. It commenced as a 5-element miniseries on CBS, airing past due on Sunday nights. That time slot became typically a ratings catastrophe. Even the community had low expectancies, but something approximately the show pulled human beings in. Every week, extra viewers tuned in. By the 5th and final episode of the miniseries, Dallas had damaged into the top 10 most watched in decades of the week. CBS wasted no time. They ordered a complete season, and by means of September 39th, Dallas became back at the air. It failed to simply survive. It had become a phenomenon. Over the next 13 seasons, or 14 if you be counted the miniseries, it aired 357 episodes, retaining hundreds of thousands of visitors, hooked until its grand finale on May 3rd, 1991. At the heart of Dallas became the Ewing family, Texas oil tycoons dwelling on the sprawling South Fork Ranch. But this wasn't just a story about money. The real tension got here from a sour feud that had begun years before. Jack Ewing had built his fortune with a former Enterprise companion named Digger Barnes. Somewhere alongside the manor, their friendship had become a competition. By the time Dallas commenced, that awful blood had spilled over into the subsequent generation. Jack's son, Bobby, fell in love with Pamela Barnes, Digger's daughter. The Ewings hated the Barners hated the Ewings. It became a love tale doomed from the start, like a cutting-edge day Romeo and Juliet. But here's the aspect Dallas nearly no way passed off. Its creator, David Jacobs, had pitched a very exclusive display. He desired to make Knots Landing a drama about Santa-class families living in a quiet California cul-de-sac. CBS turned it down. They desired something larger. They desired a saga. Jacobs reworked his concept, including circle of relatives, feuds, wealth, and electricity struggles. That's when Dallas was born. Even the name wasn't set in stone. Jacobs firstly deliberated to name the show Houston, on account that Houston changed into the actual coronary heart of the oil industry. But Michael Fileman, a TV goat, thought Dallas had a more potent, extra dramatic ring to it. That small trade turned out to be huge. Over time, Dallas became a call that symbolized wealth, energy, and betrayal. If the show were known as Houston, who is aware of if it have had the identical impact? One of the maximum unforgettable matters approximately. Dallas changed into South Fork Ranch, the Ewing circle of relatives' iconic domestic. But South Fork wasn't only a TV set, it changed into real. The ranch had been constructed in 1970 by a man named Joe Duncan. He sat on 200 acres of Texas land, about 25 miles. Lorima Productions chose it for the show as it had the best appearance. They turned into simply one trouble. The Duncan circle of relatives nonetheless lived there. For years, they allowed the manufacturing group to movie outdoors photographs of the assets whilst they continued dwelling inside the residence. But as Dallas became a huge hit, South Fork became a traveler attraction. Fans started displaying up, hoping to seize a glimpse of the Ewing home. It got to the point in which the Duncans could not live there in peace anymore. In 1985, they subsequently moved out, and South Fork had become a full-time event venue, and visitor vacation spot. Even though the displays indoors scenes had been filmed on studio units in California, South Fork remained a key part of Dallas till 1989, when the reunion movies J.R. Returns 1996 and War of the Ewings 1998 had been made. The team again to South Fork to movie, Larry Hagman turned into the closing character every person predicted to play, a ruthless oil multimillionaire. Before Dallas, he became fine recognized for making humans chuckle as Major Tony Nelson in I Dream of Jeannie. He had spent years in comedy, so the idea of him becoming certainly one of TV's most foxy villains appeared not possible. But Hagman wasn't the first in his resistance to look the capability in Dallas. His spouse, Mai Axelson, examined the pilot script before he did. The moment she finished, she turned to him and stated, "Larry, this is it." He depended on her intuition, read some pages and knew she was right. When Hagman took at the function of J.R. Ewing, he did not simply play the element, he owned it. He primarily based the individual on a MD he as soon as worked for an Untold tool and supply company and a function he had played in Stardust. J.R. became presupposed to be a sideman or woman, but Hagman became them into the show's important enchantment. He made J.R. charming, ruthless, and impossible to disregard. The role reached legendary fame in 1980, with certainly one of TV's best cliffhangers. Who shot JR? The mystery took over pop culture. People anywhere debated who the shooter turned into. When the solution became sooner or later found out, greater than 100 million viewers tuned in, making it one of the maximum watched TV episodes of all time. Barbara Bel Geddes changed into the primary man-woman cast in Dallas, and for accurate reason, as Miss Ellie Ewing, she became the heart of the show. She had already constructed an excellent career with major roles on Broadway and in movies like Vertigo, but Dallas gave her an individual that felt real. Miss Ellie became strong and compassionate, a steady presence in her own family, complete of chaos. Bel Geddes delivered extra than simply appearing skill to the position. She introduced actual existence experience. In 1971, she had a mastectomy after being identified with breast mass cancers. Years later, Dallas gave Miss Ellie the identical storyline. Audiences saw the pain in her performance as it was real. At the time, while breast cancer wasn't overtly talked about, her function helped carry awareness to millions. Even First Lady Betty Ford, a breast cancer survivor herself, venerated Bel Geddes for what she had accomplished. Her time on Dallas wasn't easy. In 1983, she had emergency quadruple bypass surgery and had to depart the show for a season. Donna Reed took over her role, but enthusiasts were not equipped to let Bel Geddes move. When her health advanced, she lowered back in 1985. Larry Hagman once stated she changed into the glue that held the entirety collectively. Without her, Dallas wouldn't have been the same. Patrick Duffy and Victoria Principal gave Dallas its heart. As Bobby Ewing and Pamela Bounds Ewing, they introduced a love story that pulled viewers in. It changed into a contemporary day Romeo and Juliet, human beings in love. From feuding families, the chemistry became undeniable, and their courting changed into the right counterbalance to JR's endless scheming. Duffy made Bobby the ethical center of the display. He turned into unswerving, truthful, and continually in struggle together with his ruthless older brother. Principal made Pamela more than simply Bobby's love hobby. She played her with power and vulnerability, making the character compelling on her own. But their love story wasn't without drama. In 1985, Dallas stunned audiences whilst Bobby became killed off. Fans were devastated. A year later, the show made an excellent, larger twist. Bobby's loss of life had been a dream. The monitor turned into arguable, but it proved one issue. Bobby was too essential to stay gone. When Dallas premiered on April 2nd, 1978, no person anticipated it to remaining. It was intended to be a brief 5-minute mini-series airing late on Sunday night, a time slot in which Suggest commonly struggled. The drama turned into compelling, however the display struggled to discover a stable audience in its first season. Everything modified inside the 2D season. CBS moved the show to Friday nights at 10 p.m., and unexpectedly, greater humans had been looking But it wasn't simply the time slot that made a difference. The show's consciousness commenced transferring. Instead of centering on Bobby and Pamela's romance, Dallas leaned into the ruthless international of huge business and family betrayal. And on the heart of all of it became J.R. Ewing. J.R. was supposed to be the main person. However, Larry Hagman performed him so flawlessly that audiences could not get sufficient. He turned into fascinating and ruthless, the kind of man who should smile whilst stabbing you within the back. He lied, cheated, and manipulated all and sundry around him, but he was so wonderful that viewers loved to look at him do it. His schemes have become the riding pressure of the display, turning Dallas into have-to-see TV. The timing couldn't have been higher. The past due 1,970s had been hard for many Americans. Inflation turned into hard, jobs had been unsure, and households were slicing again on spending. People had been staying home more, and TV had become a breakout. Dallas gave them the entirety they wanted. Power struggles, shocking betrayals, and larger-than-life characters. The storytelling turned into unique from other shows on the time. Instead of wrapping up conflicts in a unmarried episode, by the 1/3 season, Dallas changed into one of the most famous indicates on TV. But it changed into the season finale on March 21st, 1980, that modified the whole thing.